call signs. We just received numerous complaints regarding a speeding vehicle that was last seen southbound near the Omega Power Station. Can I get someone to start up that way, please?
Dispatch, 1085. This guy's giving me some problems. By the numbers, get in front of him full block. And let's minimize public damage here, folks.
Pull away from me, try to stay with him.
Hold on, rear end MVA here, just hold on. Just had a high-speed impact.
Pull the car over now.
1042.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car!
So, welcome back. We are currently going into the 70s now as Widowmaker Industries. And we do have something interesting coming up. We have got the huge Joker lineup right here. And we are getting a lot of sales from the stolen car from their buyer, which we made multiple trims of, almost up to 20. We do have a kind of big problem now, kind of in regards to the factories, because it's getting a little bit problematic in making sure that every car has a proper factory set up, because there's just so many different models, and each model wants to have its own factory slot, right? And if a model goes out of production, you still have the factory, and you can't sell the factory in this version. So I kind of gotta make a new version of a car. And sometimes the factory is then too small, and then you make it bigger, or you make multiple factories, and then it's just adding more and more problems because each factory has running costs. So we gotta deal with this. We kind of want to go into the Group 5 preparations in this video. I'm kind of gonna keep it short and gonna compress the next 10 years in this video, I hope, because I got too much material that I gotta produce before the new campaign start. And obviously that comes with updating and facelifting our previous models. Here, for example, the Dite, our first mid-engine / rear engine car that we have in two trims, two versions at this point, the track version and the convertible version. Now both of them are pretty much best sellers at this point, because this car is from 56 and still selling like hotcakes. It's, I think, tells you a lot about the hidden values in automation in regards to sorry, which country or which region prefers what, because this is a small car, sporty car, but very light still with a small engine, and this is kind of what the Fuenians here want. And maybe that's one of the reasons why it sells so well. But another reason might be that this car actually escaped the police in one of our car hunts in the Cops and Robbers or Catch the Widowmaker episodes. And this car actually was able to, I think, make a 12-minute run, or 30 minutes, so that's pretty long. And it goes to show that that might be one of the reasons why people like this car. It's light, nimble, flexible, and even though it has the Turbo 6, which in the first version made maybe 80 horsepower, no, maybe it does 120 or something like that. It's definitely the car that has the least amount of horsepower in our sports cars and track cars kind of category. At the same time, we can easily outrun these 200 horsepower V8 police cars from the 60s and 70s with no problem whatsoever, because it's just very well set up. So this, once again, is the original Dite from the 50s, the car where we put our whole car philosophy on a Dite, half the engine size, half the cylinder size, half the weight, put the engine in the back, and was our layout for all our top models in the future. And the new Aero car that we are basically building now is kind of the successor for the niche in which market we are selling this, because we do have the Dite Generation 2, yes, but that's more like a super or like a hypercar. And this car for the last 25 years was our bread and butter car for the track car, like light sport car niche, right? The car that is light and affordable. Now there's a little bit of research development and making sure that this car will be set off in the factory correctly. I don't really know what to look for. Usually I'm just making sure everything is green, because at this point I'm still not an expert in regards to all these things, and it's a bit overwhelming, to be honest. So that's that. So another interesting takeaway is that our previously top-end model that was even more prestigious than the first family premium car that we had, the Atom, is now in the family niche. But as you know, you can only really gauge how good a Widowmaker car is by measuring the time it takes until the police catches it. And that's what we're doing in the cars where the Sawbus events or the Widowmaker events after the main races. Usually take one of the stock cars and see if the police can catch me within 20 minutes. Now, just like the Arrow and the Dite, these were some of the few exceptions of cars that were able to actually make it over 10 minutes, which is really remarkable, because we always set police cars up against them that are in the same power category or just general cars of that era, even if they have more horsepower. So this car was able to escape quite well. In the latest iteration of this GT Premium car, it has the V12, the original V12 from 1946. In the latest version, that must be like some type of late 60s version, the mechanically fuel injected one, which was kind of our go-to block for all of the high-end cars that doesn't have the turbo. That makes around 240 horsepower and is still quite smooth. Uh-oh. 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 The arm of the police is behind me.
Having some suspects
I
here.
am seeing a suspect.
Oh, looks like...
Oh,
What the
That's
hell?
it's a front crash.
So we sold it back in the day as some Rolls-Royce-ish high-end GT premium type of thing. And now, because it's kind of getting old and it's not so premium anymore, it's just kind of refurbished into a family premium type of car. You can see it on the top right in the highest sales. So that's kind of interesting that you can kind of recycle something that you used previously as a high-end car, and if it's old, just sell it as a cheap family car, you know? It's pretty interesting. So now here's a little overlay where you can see all the different models that we currently are offering. We're gonna soon bring in the new model, which is gonna be basically a new successor to the Dite that you just saw, that we just facelifted, because it is going close to 20 years in a bit. And we will have a new car for the track niche, with one model that's a little bit more efficient, and we're also gonna introduce a new engine lineup, because both our V8 and V12 are getting 25 years old soon, since they were both introduced together in 1946. So the next big problem that we have here at Widowmaker Industries is obviously this kind of stupendous project, this meme project where we stole this car from the buyer, which supposedly was so amazing, and we made 20 trims of that to reap the benefits, but it's costing us more than it's giving us back, because the factory management of that thing is just crazy, because we have 2 or 3 factories at this point running together in order to supply all the demand. At least the new Joker facelift that we have has a reasonable amount of stock and is selling actually quite well, and is combating all these expenses that we have, at least for a little bit. So now, since we are always overworked in one of the engine factories, we're just gonna set up a new one in Gizmir, and that's gonna be it for now. So as you can see, to kind of supply all this demand, we have over 10 almost all medium-sized factories, and my idea is I'm gonna take some of these models, some of the trims that I previously haven't had produced in the one factory, in one of the other smaller factories that is currently not really utilized, upgrade that factory to a medium-sized one, upgrade it to steel presses, and then do the trims that are in demand but underproduced or not even produced in the other factories here. But it doesn't look like it's gonna be very profitable, as you can see. But we don't really got a chance to do anything else, so just fast forward a couple of months and see how we're gonna survive. And this is kind of what you get when you underpay you and overwork your workers all day long. So listen here, kids, pay your workers first, and make sure you don't work them 24/7. when they don't have any work experience as well. So that's the problem. We're always pushing it to like a low reliability, because otherwise we cannot even handle that many cars and that many factories unless we underpay them, and unless we basically have no safety checks and no tooling refresh, all these kind of things. It just costs too much money for us. So everything is basically hanging on a thread, and it's always up to these things, right? If we have too much of these production issues and pay for them, we go in bankrupt. As you can see, we are like plus minus nothing, right? Maybe 1 month we make 2 mil, then we lose. So now it's looking great, we're making plus 5 mil, but it's hard to tell how long this is gonna be like this, because once one of these cars runs out of demand, it's getting too old or whatever, then we have an empty factory, but we still have to pay the worker wages, we still have to pay the factory, we still have to pay the loan, and then we gotta invent something new, but that costs money, and so the whole process starts again, right? It's really hit or miss, and maybe that's accurate. So a couple of our cars finish engineering, which is always good when the facelift comes out, because then we can collect the money of the pre-orders and whatnot. So the next months we should have some overhead, but you can see at the top our bank account is going closer to 0 every other year, so we gotta be careful here. So we do have emission problems, and since our previous factory is also underproducing the engines that we need, we kind of have to increase the factory size of one of them. You are seeing that we have multiple versions of the V8, one for sports cars, one that's a bit better for fuel efficiency, and then a base version. Yeah, but the emissions are becoming more and more of a problem. Basically, the way it works with the emissions is, if your car is producing too many bad emissions, you pay a fee on each car that you sell. So basically, I'm gonna have to re-facelift certain cars now that are fitted with the older V8 engines that are bad emission levels. So basically, I have to make a new forced facelift for some of these cars. Also, a new feature that I discovered is I'm able to sell off older models, older version of the facelifts that are not really in demand anymore. And you can see we overproduced a lot of cars here and there. There's just a couple thousand trims of certain models that we haven't even sold. So if I would have optimized the factory shifts better and like lowered the demand or increased the quality and would have less production numbers, would have probably been way better. But also for our company, kind of how do you say, basically the way people speak about our company is also measured. So if we always sell crap cars and always have these recalls that we have, our company evaluation, not evaluation, but the way people see the reliability of our cars in general is also lowered, which is probably one of the reasons why I cannot sell city cars, family cars, smaller cars, commuter cars, and those kind of things well, where this kind of reliability score is valued highly. That's at least the way I assume it works. If we're taking a look on our sales, this is also something that you can see there. We are really dominant in these higher luxury variants, but we're not very dominant in the off-road market, even though we supposedly have a pretty good potential there. The first off-roader that we built, originally for the government, the Brummer 1, was kinda getting old now, so it's time for a new successor for that car. Now, looking back, I don't know why the hell I didn't choose ladder or at least monocoque and I made it a space frame. I like to believe it was because it gave me a little bit more of the safety stat, but I'm not sure what I was thinking there. But that might have been one of the reasons why this car performs the way it does. But anyways, not gonna foreshadow too much here. We will have a later episode with this car where it's being tested and the only thing it will be used for, which is escaping the police. A little foreshadowing there, I did horrible, terrible. But yeah, it will be the successor of the previous Brummer 1. So in a way, it's kind of this military safari type thing. Well suited for the Diluvian deserts. And yeah, hopefully it can help us get out of this situation we're in with approaching bankruptcy, right? I mean, currently 14 mil in the bank account, but let's be real, we have way more loans to cover and stuff to pay off. So we're gonna make 2 versions, off-road and the utility. Gonna have 2 different body trims. Both will be fitted with the V8 unleaded, the efficiency version, which will help us to also hit the emission quotas that we need to reach, and at the same time have a car that has enough torque to be moved in off-road and to move the weight, but at the same time can provide a certain amount of fuel efficiency and still enough fun. So it should be good here. I think the biggest problem though is, as usual, the liability, because for some reason 52 doesn't seem to be enough. So we're gonna have to wriggle around with the interior and suspension settings in order to get it higher. I don't know if you can call it a strategy, but another thing I'm doing here is just to use the latest tech. For example, at this point, hydropneumatic suspension, because it will just get the numbers up, right? I'm just selecting at this point the things that make it green, because I don't have too much luxury in regards to choosing what I think would be great, for the simple point that I have to survive. And I think maybe selecting space frame there might have been one of the biggest reasons why it doesn't work, or why it doesn't get green very well. But if you tinker long enough, you can kind of get it to work. And of course, we will sell both cars in the premium versions of the niche, off-road premium, utility premium. Now it's all about getting the factory ready as well. I should have probably set the factory to a little bit more reliability, but then again, it costs a lot of money. And yeah, we're still trying to get away with it somehow. But it looks so far that it's gonna give us a profit, especially since the previous niche that we put into that market with the first Brummer now at this point is just too old and isn't giving us nearly enough sales to make up for the factory size and whatnot. So now it's time to basically push the time forward. Also, since we do have certain amount of cars not being sold, maybe it's time to also adjust certain prices, especially of our compact lineup, since it's one of the biggest lineups that we're having. So that can help us in regards to producing the correct number with the amount of orders, because we have more orders than we can actually sell and produce. House stop in front of me.
Then uphill.
Going uphill.
Oh, my car doesn't have the power.
Again into the stone crate, kind of. Don't know.
At Monte Valley. He's going off road. Damn it.
Push me into this.
Not here. Must be lower.
Yes.
Turn. Turn
Oh
and
no.
back.
Oh no.
Trying to cut off again. On the other side.
Yeah, Piccoli needs something else. Where's Jake? What?
Yippee!
Oh no.
Oh,
No,
oh,
no.
oh.
What?
So a new off-roader isn't all that, but I guess for a 1970s off-roader that has somewhat okay fuel efficiency, it's somewhat okay. Now, even though we had recent upgrades in the V8s for the emissions, there's a new thing that I found out. Your engine might say in one car that it has correct emissions, but in another car, just because of the gearing changes and some other small changes, it might not have these emission standards. So since our blocks are at this point 30 years old, we're gonna make a new one for the V12 and now for the V8 as well. We're gonna make it aluminum so we can have finally some light cars, because I'm sick of having these 300 kilo V12 engines, especially because with the turbo they're just so heavy. And remember, the first V12, even though it was 4.4 liters with even mechanical fuel injection in the later variants, even with twin turbos, made only 300 horsepower at the emission correct level. Now, if you don't care about emissions, you could crank it up to 600 horsepower, but the problem is just you cannot get a block like this to make that much power if it's that old, with old technology and 2 valves, for example. It's just not possible. So we're gonna set up aluminum, 4 valves, dual overhead cam, mechanical fuel injection as the base, and thus we're gonna have very, very good economy, we're gonna have good reliability, and we're gonna have good emission levels, because currently we're paying too much money for that. So I made 3 versions of this: fuel efficient, the base version, which has the highest reliability, then a high rev version for our sports cars that reaches up to 400 horsepower, which is also gonna be the version for the Group 5 base model, and then also the fuel efficient V8. And yeah, this is refreshing. Finally a new engine block after 30 years. You can see emissions are all green, and we're gonna have a lot of fun with this, especially because the power potential for this, even the natural or aspirated version, which I already tested, goes up to 750 horsepower. So this engine without a turbo, by just adjusting the exhaust, making the cams more aggressive, making the header, and like just open everything up, you can reach 700, 800 horsepower. So that's beautiful. And that's exactly what we need for the coming race events. Now, like I said earlier, the original Dite platform is now 20 years old, or maybe even a little bit older. And thus it makes sense to have a new contender for the track sport light kind of niche. So we're gonna have the base version of this car with the fuel efficient V8, and then we're gonna make a trim later for the Group 5 event with the high revving 400 horsepower V8 as the base model. And this fuel efficient model can be kind of for the Fuenian guy who wants to have a small engine, decent power but not too much, just very lightweight. We're gonna put all the weight in the rear with this. It's already mid-engined, and we're gonna double down on that by putting all the weight to the rear. We're gonna have progressive gas monotube suspension, and just overall a pretty simple setup with rear-wheel drive, 5 gears, very small medium tires, a little bit of cooling airflow, decent interior that is Widowmaker correct, and you can already see it's already pretty green, so it looks pretty nice, to be honest. Make it very light because that's what they want, and they can have a good time with this. And we also checked the fuel efficiency of this, and you can drive 120 kilometers per hour, I think, with the 200 horsepower model for around 7 to 9 liters per 100 kilometers. So that's pretty good. That's very, very good. Yeah, and it looks pretty promising, and this is kind of my advice for you. If you're running a Fuenia playthrough, definitely focus on light sports cars, because these things just sell for whatever reason, because they just love it, you know. So now setting up the factory, Just the usual, trying to get us as green as possible with the least amount of reliability. One good thing is, I don't know if it's that good, but we did get the bankruptcy screen. So we are having some money in the pocket right now, which is basically just a horrible loan. At the same time, we sold a lot of these stock cars that we still had left over, so we get a little bit of money. And hopefully putting that money into the factory add-ons, the other Foundry Forge works, and getting somewhat of a decent production here running will benefit us in the long run, especially because it's an aluminum engine, and we will slowly roll these blocks and this engine family out to all cars. Since we have 3 trims, we are able to use them on all cars. We're gonna make a V12 as well, but we have the high rev version for our sports cars. We have the fuel efficiency version for the family cars, the commuter cars, the off-roaders, and everyone else who doesn't want a high fuel eating engine. And then we have the base model, which just has good reliability for some niches who have huge amounts of reliability focus. And then also for everything in between, because it gives you still around 300 horsepower, but it doesn't have that much reliability problems as the 400 horsepower version. So it's a pretty good mix. So with that, we should be able to roll out to all of our cars while waiting until we have the V12. Now for the Aero, we're gonna set up a new small factory. Also, it looks quite promising, but we don't have the funds to make a bigger factory anyways. But I think small factory, not many worker wages, is going to give us a healthy profit margin, and we can make it work somehow. So now it looks like this whole little project is going to cost us 450 million. Basically all the money we have right now, with already having a bankruptcy alone, right? But the thing is this, I think that this might work out for us, because this is going to be the engine lineup for all of our cars, and we already paying so much money because the emissions are killing us, right? It's the same old story. So this car, and this is actually quite interesting, the fuel efficient motor is actually able to drive highway speed around 140 kilometers per hour, or roughly 100 miles per hour, at 7 to 8 liters, right? So that's nothing. I think that's like 30 miles per gallon. I'm not sure, but I guess. So I tested this on the live stream before the LMP race. If you're on 5th gear and you're cruising away on the highway, actually uses around, I think it was like 9 liters. And this is a good kind of like starting point for us, right? So we start with this normal car, which is actually still a sports car. You can kind of think about it like the Ferrari Mondial. There was a time where Ferrari had this kind of 2+2 car, where they still wanted to have like the Ferrari kind of sports feeling, but at the same time a car for everyone, like a family premium car. And if you're accelerating with this car, okay, you're using much more because it's still a V8. But if you now see, we're holding 140. This is kind of the highway speed you would do. This is about maybe 100 miles per hour roughly. And you see we're having a good 8 liters for a muscle car with 200 horsepower here. So me and a friend, after one of the BMP races, we realized, you know, the Civetta Bolide, or whatever the name is pronounced or called, I don't know, I'm new to BeamNG, is actually pretty close as a comparison to the Street Aero, right? Because the base in the 70s now, as you saw, came with the 200 horsepower fuel efficient car, the car that only eats up 8 liters on 100 kilometers, which is amazing. And it races only around 1,000 kilos. It has a huge overdrive gear with the 5th gear. And the Civetta Bolide has around 60 horsepower more, but also weighs 300 kilos more. So on the straights, he can get us, but from the starting point on and in corners, we're a little bit faster because of the lightweight. Both of these cars have a lot of weight in the back, so it's really tough to steer them because we're both not the best drivers, as you can tell. And it's just not very easy to keep these things on the road. Especially with the street version of the Aero, for whatever reason, even though it's already mid-engined, so it naturally has a lot of weight in the back, the automation stats, if I remember correctly, told me that I have better like sportiness stats, so to say, overall, which are important for the sales and the light sports department, if I put all the way to the back even more, right? So using the weight slider for the weight bias all the way to the max. So I think this car has like, what, 75% weight in the back, which is really not a good idea for BeamNG. Surprisingly though, it handles much better than some cars that have only 65% weight in the back, maybe because it's not that heavy overall. If the rear moves once, you cannot really get it back, right? You can try to counter steer, but especially because it's also rear-wheel drive, it's just crazy. The funny thing though with this thing is that the first gear reaches all the way up to 100 kilometers, which helps in automation in regards to the acceleration stat, which is once again an important stat for sales, because you don't have to shift basically, and it counts basically the time between how much time you need from 1 to 100, and at the same time having these super long gears also helps with the nice fuel, right? The fifth gear you can't even accelerate over 200 kilometers with it, but it's just a nice overdrive for fuel. And as you can see, both of these stars basically oversteer the whole time in slipstream. I can also keep up with the car, and it's fun. See for yourself. Really?
Yeah,
But with
well,
slipstream I actually catch up to you.
Yeah, in slipstream, okay. And when you get out of it? Ah!
Then you crash me into the wall and kill me. Because
So
you go right. So overall it's not a bad car. It's a fun little car. You have good fuel economy. You can still enjoy a nice V8. 200 horsepower with 1,000 kilos is quite sporty. Just gotta be careful not to spin this thing around, which is gonna be tough, but then again you're buying a Widowmaker. So I think it's a perfect little car for our company. Hopefully we're gonna make some profits now. No, we're not. But who would have thought otherwise? But anyways, I think we can survive, hopefully, until the 400 million are eaten up and then slowly gaining enough money back. Yeah, I gotta fast forward a lot here in this episode, so please bear with me guys, and I know it's not the most exciting episode. The problem is just I'm way over my head with these things. We have like a car lineup of 12 cars or something like that now. And I mean, the compact car has 20 trims, and if I want to make a facelift, I have to make a facelift for each version. So I just gotta, like, I think the speed increase is like times 30 now. And you have to make sure for everyone, okay, the emissions are correct. Is there enough demand now, and yada yada. You know the drill. So it's a bit boring, but I'll make it up to you in the next episode. We're gonna do another corpse for this robbers one. And we're gonna test the new Aero in the next episode and see, hey, it's not a race version with the 200 horsepower fuel efficient version, which is the base model. Can the base model, the 200 horsepower version, be enough to outrun the police in similar trims of similar years? So it's a 1970s car. We allow the police to run up to 1975 too. And we're gonna see, can they outrun it? Let's see, maybe we're gonna do it in the 200 horsepower version, or we're gonna do it in the 400 horsepower version. We'll see next episode, and we have a look on how we go there. So, see you next episode. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you soon.
Are you the guys who made the Widowmaker?
I'm gonna use it as brain shot soon.